longer, bushier, crazier beard. Hey, welcome to episode 190 of Front Seat Gamer. I'm Nick. I'm here with Blake.
Hello.
And
Nick.
Paul.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Paul.
Hey.
190, eh?
Yeah, we're getting close to 200.
Yep.
Which at our current rate will be 4 years from now.
No, 2 weeks.
No, sorry, 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.
We kick off with questions now. That's a change that has happened over the course of 190 episodes.
Yep.
So here's, well, at least this is, again, I say questions. Most of what we get are comments.
Sure. It's funny that it's like the email is front seat questions.
Yeah.
When really it's just like a conversation.
Yeah.
I set that up.
What's the email? frontseatquestions@gmail.com? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
I set that up because I was just copying another podcast
Oh, I see.
who had like, I think it was like idle. I think it was an Idle Thumbs, and they had idle questions or something.
Okay.
I was like, I'll just copy them. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, we'll make it as big as them.
Yeah.
We'll just do what they do.
Well, they're not running anymore. So hey, who's?
We guess we're winning.
Yeah.
So this is from Slippery Jim 8. He says, up to number 72. Crazy that I got through 18 in 2 weeks. Felt like longer. The Pachinko Idle game was in reference to podcast 188. Anyway, in 189, y'all mentioned some mobile game you've been playing, but then failed to say what it was or even talk about it.
Yeah, what was that?
That was Backpack Brawl. I've played quite a lot of it since, I guess, like end of November-ish. I got my wife addicted to it, and then I think I got my dad addicted to it as well.
Whoa.
It is, I think, similar to some other games. You basically are, there's like a shop phase where you buy items to put in your backpack, and then there's a battle phase where those backpack items fight an opponent's backpack, or an opponent who also has a backpack full of items, automatically. So it's an auto battler.
Yeah.
But it is about making choices, crafting items between rounds, basically, and arranging your backpack to min-max the effectiveness of the items in them.
Yep.
So it feels like a puzzle game more than it feels like a PvP game, especially because the PvP is asynchronous.
Yep.
It's really, really good. It's really well made. It's not aggressive with the ads. They have just changed some of their prices for the worse.
Oh no!
You could buy new heroes
Mhm.
for about 300 gems, which is their sort of premium currency, and you could earn 300 gems in about a month, just through sort of like pretty regular play.
Yep.
And they were releasing heroes in about sort of on a monthly almost.
Oh.
So you could basically buy heroes for free, and I think that they realized that's not really sustainable. If everyone can buy heroes for free when they come out,
Yep.
what are they paying for?
Yep.
And there are other things you can pay for, but I have found that it's not necessary. So now, heroes are 900 gems.
Oh.
Yeah. So you'll probably have to pay or watch some ads to earn gems if you really want to get all the heroes.
Wow.
But
have you spent any money?
I did.
Yeah.
I played it for like a couple weeks, maybe a week and a bit, and I was like, this game's really, really good, and I want to play the other heroes. I'm just going to buy them. So I spent like $17, and I got enough gems to buy it.
Man, it's such a good price. $17.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and I honestly am considering buying more gems.
Yeah.
Because with the new prices, I might have to. But like, I think that they are doing a really good job. They make interesting balance changes.
Cool.
They when an item is overpowered, or if a character is underperforming, or whatever else, they won't strictly just nerf the numbers necessarily, although they sometimes do that. But they might change the functionality of it a little bit, or they might change the like overlapping pattern in the bag, so that the way you arrange it in a bag is a little bit different, so that it's a little harder to get full power, or something like that.
Yep.
They make choices that are a little more friendly for the game player, as opposed to like just strictly nerfing and buffing.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't always agree, but I like that they try interesting things. There was a character that came out called Celeste, and when she came out, she had this like mechanic where items would make other items electrified, and when they got a certain level of electrification, they got a big boost in power, basically. And there were no items outside of her kit. There's like a whole bunch of neutral items that all characters have access to, and there were no items outside of her kit that used this mechanic. And it felt like, oh, this is a character who like needs only her items. And it felt the sort of technical design term is parasitic design. It's design elements that are tied to that specific piece of content and within a like game design ecosystem that's not great. And they did a patch where they went way overboard with trying to reverse that. They made a ton of different items have these charge mechanics. And then they pulled some of that back. And they found a reasonable middle ground. But they did these big, exciting changes that were interesting, even if they didn't necessarily work for the health of the game. They were flexible and changed things back and forth. Which is, I think,
I like that a lot.
It's a good sign of an observant and invested game developer.
Yeah, especially even to just be willing to try things. See what works and what doesn't.
I've talked to the designer. It's a small team of like 7 people. And like he was up until 3 a.m. I was talking to him at like 4 p.m. my time or 3 p.m. my time, and it was 3 a.m. his time. He was just doing balance changes. He's like, yeah, I just want to get a patch out. I want to get a build going. And I want to try this stuff out.
Wow, cool.
And so like he's very, very passionate about it.
That's great.
It's really cool. And the game is just if you like kind of puzzly auto battler sort of it's really for PoE fans will really love it because it's making a build. It is the game is purely making a build, and then the build plays itself. Which is what most I think PoE players actually want.
Well, there's also that
they don't care about the actual gameplay. They want to make a build and see how the build performs.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's also got that thing of like, you're making a build, but you're also like you're setting up a layout in your backpack, right? Because things have like adjacency things and all that, and then you watch it play out and go, oh, maybe this isn't working exactly
tweak
how I
a couple
want.
things, swap this around. Oh, actually, shoot, I forgot that this dagger has to overlap with this thing. Yes, it's there's so much of that, and it's quite meditative at times, where it's like you kind of get to the late game where you've got a lot of the items you want, and then you spend like you could just blow through it. The goal is to get 15 wins, basically. And you could probably, if you were really aggressively doing it, you could do your 15 wins in half an hour. But there are times where I'll spend 15 minutes just rearranging my bag, trying to really min-max it between rounds. And then I play one round and I lose or whatever, and I'm like, okay, well, there's another 20 minutes to go. Here, let's do it again. But it's really fun. It's really meditative, and there's a shocking amount of build variety for most of the characters. There's lots of weird ways to win or lose. So I really like that game. That's the game I've been playing for, I guess, a couple months now.
Whoa.
I got all the heroes to level 10, which is like level 20 is the maximum, but level 10 is where you unlock all of their items. And then I still play them.
What are the other microtransactions in it?
You can buy. So there's a meta progression system where like items can be upgraded. So they might be just passively better. Like your weapons might be more accurate, or they'll have a higher crit chance or whatever else. So there's a pay to win element to it, but it often doesn't really come into play all that much. And because there's matchmaking, because it's asynchronous PvP and there's matchmaking, you're going to typically be matched with someone of equivalent level and power.
That's cool.
So it doesn't really. The whole pay to win aspect barely comes into play. I say barely. They just recently did events where the matchmaking is a lot looser, and there's like weird rules. And I was like on a level 11 character facing level 19 characters.
Oh wow!
So I was losing. When I got to that stage, but that's the matchmaking, right?
Was that after you'd won a bunch?
Yes, I was doing really well in it, and then it's like, oh great, you're doing really well. Here's some other people who are doing really well. Sorry, they're level 19.
Damn.
So now your run of doing really well is over. And now your run is over.
Fun has finished.
Yes. So basically those items can be upgraded. You get cards and you get coins, and you have to get more and more cards each time and to upgrade to the next tier, and the coin cost also goes up. Basically, it's like you need 10 cards and 400 coins, and then you need 20 cards and 1,000 coins, and then you need 30 cards and you need 2,000 coins, and it goes up and up and up and up and up.
Yep. And when you say arranging your backpack, it's like PoE, like
it's a grid.
Tetris.
Yes,
Tetris inventory.
Exactly. It is. If instead of looting as a thing to get money in PoE, looting was the combat.
Yeah.
And you have to loot really well. You have to get your backpack really full.
Yeah.
And get all those items arranged really nicely, and then the fight happens.
Yeah.
And it sounds boring. I realize that. And you know what? For some people, it's probably really boring. I love it, and I think PoE players will love it.
Yep. I get it. It's got that whole thing of like setting it up and watching it
play out.
Yeah, is interesting.
And there's a lot of little fine tuning stuff. It's like there's lots of little clever systems that make sure that you can't going hard down one strategy may not necessarily pay off. Like buying just tons of weapons probably won't pay off because there's a stamina system, and once you run out of stamina, your weapons won't swing. And you regenerate stamina, and you can buy items that cause you to regenerate stamina faster.
Yeah,
but they take up backpack space. And
Yep.
you can arrange those items so those stamina items trigger faster, but then you've got less and less space for your weapons. And it's really it's a good, clever system. It's a very good game.
It's
A+.
Yeah,
I like it. And Paul's played a game that's basically like it.
I think the one I played was on Steam, and it was called like Backpack Battles or something. So very similar name. I played a little bit of the mobile game, but because I'd played a bunch of the Steam one first, you just
bounced off.
I sort of felt like I'd done it.
Yeah.
But I do like that gameplay. I think, especially if you haven't played one before, it's fun.
And I also think that the longer this game goes on, I hope they are successful because I really like it. But I think the longer this game goes on, the more it will diverge from, I guess, its original inspiration, because they're coming up with their own heroes, their own like item sets.
And like I think there was only 2 heroes in the one I played.
Okay,
and it was in like early access.
Right. Well, this is now. I think they're about to release their 11th on mobile.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of divergence already. Probably. Anyway, good game.
I just wondered if it's actually the same game.
I doubt it.
I like, it's worth checking. Right?
Sometimes there are games that are on both, and like the PC one is like slightly different.
I'm going to finish reading the comment.
Yep.
He said, guess I'll have to wait another 2 weeks to hear about it. Y'all need to make more of these podcasts. Damn it. Sorry,
every 2 weeks.
We've done it 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been exactly 2 weeks every podcast.
Yeah.
No, okay, so there is a Backpack Battles.
Yeah.
Which is the one I played.
I'll quickly read. This is Claydog 003 says, thanks for it's quite a long comment, so I'm not going to read all of it, but thanks for the podcast, guys. I don't usually comment, but I do always listen eventually. My favorite zone is probably Act 3 Agarat. The environment is just very pretty. The worshippers are cool, and then you go through the door, and there is the hard swap to the blood-stained floors and the mountain of bodies. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yep.
Because I am in Act 3 Cruel now.
Yeah, you would have seen that then. Yeah.
Those are some big zones. We've talked about it.
They are big zones. Agarat is quite big.
Agarat is huge.
Yeah.
And that was the Temple of Filth, right?
Yes.
Originally?
Yeah.
Cool.
I really want to hear from players that
they recognize
that. They recognize that, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've definitely talked to people and they're like, oh, I had no idea. And then I've talked to other people who are like, oh, yeah, because it's got the Zeri statues all over the place. And then, you know.
And also the same architecture.
The same architecture. Like, it's basically, it's like the same intro. You know, you in Utsul, you go, that section is the same at the stairs. You know, there's a Zeri statue there and she's broken. And and then in the Apex of Filth, where you would normally go down to Dominus, it's just like it looks like a septic.
Down to Dominus?
Yeah. Oh, not Dominus. Doriani.
Okay.
Doriani.
Right.
Yeah. You haven't been to Dominus yet? You didn't?
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, down to Doriani. It's just this like septic pond that you don't. Like when you get there, you're just like, oh, it's just like this weird pond thing.
Yeah.
But then when you get there in the past, there's like stairs that go down.
Yeah.
I would love to have one where you set in the present where you do go down into Doriani's, like all that septic water is drained out, and you go into Doriani and see what is in there in the present.
Well, you kind of get I think you get a taste of that in the Jiquani temple, because it is similar in theme of these like sort of high tech Vol gadgets.
Yeah.
But these, in the Jiquani one, it's a little less high tech, I guess, but more ancient. But I guess that's kind of the vibe, right?
Yeah.
So
the Doriani one is he's basically the apex of Vol tech, and it's just his lab essentially.
Yeah. Cool seeing the bodies getting sliced in half.
Oh
yeah, I
yes,
really like that.
yes. Oh, actually, we had a.
And it's got some loot as well, which is
yeah. You literally loot them.
You should get half loot. I think you should be like, half a staff of.
Yeah. You only get one glove, one boot.
Yeah.
That was actually a Jonathan idea. That one. I actually wanted to get rid of because we had these half people just in the wall.
Yeah,
they were just half people, and I didn't like them. I didn't like the way they looked. I was like, I think we should just get rid of these. And then Jonathan was like, what if we just like have a whole person and they're sliced in half, and then you can loot that as a wall chest.
Yeah,
and it was just like, oh, that's fantastic. Let's do that.
Good job, Jonathan.
Yep. A lot of players too have like commented on that and been like, oh my god, why did they do this?
I'll just read the end of his comment as well, which is I've taken 4 characters of the campaign so far, and honestly, Spark has felt like on the weaker side for trying to kill bosses. It's great for clearing through zones, but on a boss fight, it's maybe a little too ethical of a fight. The big ones should be quadrillas, maybe make mini ones forillas.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't fully serious about the forilla thing. I only a little bit.
Forillas. I get it. I like quadrillas.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, forillas could also. Hey, there's more other species of 4-armed gorillas, I'm sure.
There's some very, very long comments from a Mongolin, which we're not going to read out because they're super, super, super long. But thank you so much for reaching out. We'll reply in email if we haven't already. I'll just skip down to Sal Morris. This is a pretty old one. He said, I played Dave the Diver and Hogwarts Legacy after I first heard of them here, and I love them. Thanks for introducing me to such great games. How far have you gotten them? Well, I beat Dave the Diver.
Oh, did you?
Well, yeah. Although when I beat it, it was like I finished. I got the credits and all that stuff, and then the next day rolls around, and like now you can run 2 restaurants, and I was like, oh.
Now you can play the game.
No. Now you can manage restaurants. Oh no.
How do you run 2 restaurants? Oh, I suppose because you hire staff.
You then start hiring staff. You have to hire a second manager. You have to start managing the ingredients between the 2 restaurants and stuff. I didn't keep playing at that point because I was like, I had a really good time, but it started to overstay its welcome a little bit at the end.
It was neat. I got to, what is it? There was like some mer people that you meet, and I had to get like an antidote or something for someone, and then
I know the one.
Yeah, and then I hadn't gone back down to give them the antidote.
I got a bit further than that, I think. Okay. Not much further.
Yeah,
but
I mean, spoilers. You unlock their city,
right?
And then that's about halfway through the game, I would say.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Already?
Well, yeah. I mean, in terms of well,
halfway. It depends on story wise.
When you unlock
story wise, you could rush there, I'm sure. But like the way I was playing, and I'm sure the way you guys were playing, was just like, okay, here's what I want to do today, and then instantly sidetracked, like with other fish, and
you start seeing some big sharks, and I'm gonna catch that shark. Paul, you've been playing some stuff.
I have.
Tell me about it.
I've been playing Heroes of Hammerwatch II.
That sounds interesting. Tell me. Tell me more.
It's pretty good. It's a action RPG, really, and kind of roguelike. It's technically a roguelite, but you in each run gain quite a bit of XP and unlock quite a lot of things. So you progress through it far easier each run, rather than it being like a thing where you unlock something that is a new kind of weapon, but the run's not that much easier.
Yeah.
This is straight up heaps easier each time you run. You collect resources and upgrade your town in between runs.
Interesting.
Where you can make it so you get like more resources or lose less resources, because when you die, you go back to town, and you'll lose a percentage of what you gained during the run. But you start building up a town there with people that train you in like magic or upgrade weapons. You can unlock other classes. It's very fun, but it is very simple. Which I really like, because I can just sit down for like an hour, do a couple runs, or sometimes one really long one. You can get like trinkets during the run.
Yeah.
You'll find different trinkets that change how your weapons or crit chance or increase defenses. And there's quite often sets.
Yep.
So you get a bunch that interact together.
Okay.
Good time. Some of the biggest sets will have higher rarity for the end set pieces too, so it really feels juicy.
Yeah.
When you get it, but annoying. But
yeah, no, I fully understand. But also, like that would bother me. But I would also be like, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, sometimes just the like 2 set bonus is good enough.
Yeah. Okay.
But you can scale resistances really high. You can scale armor really high. You can get tanky or be squishy and deal shitloads of damage.
Yeah.
There's like 8 classes, I think.
And
some of this is spoilery, by the way.
That's fine. Do you choose? Do you choose the class, or
when you're in town, you can just switch class.
Right. Okay.
And it will like drop you straight in where you are in town.
Okay.
And then you can do the run as that character.
Right.
And so it is like pixel art, right? Like old school RPG looking pixel art.
Yeah, it's
modern old
like
school.
a modern spin
modern
on
old school. Yeah. It can be. So one of the really weird things is when I started playing it, I was like, okay, I unlocked a certain thing that happens at level 10. I couldn't decide which thing to choose. So I started Googling it.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out there's also a Hammerwatch II. That is a different game
Okay.
from the same studio, I believe. And they've got the same classes. And a lot of the skills are named the same. So that was very confusing when I was trying to figure out which skill.
Yes. And are they like different genres?
Yeah. So I think the other one's more of an RPG. I didn't actually look too much into it. But they did the same thing with Hammerwatch 1. And some people really liked Hammerwatch 1.
Yeah.
And some people really liked the more roguelike version, Heroes of Hammerwatch. I think this one, for me, this style of game is very me.
Have you played a game called Death Must Die?
Yes.
Because it sounds a bit like that to me. But Death Must Die is like a Vampire Survivors sort of auto attack spam.
Yeah.
Like you basically, your run lasts a maximum of half an hour.
I struggled a bit with that game because it really did feel like it was Vampire Survivors, but with dodge roll.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, but also loot, and loot is important. The thing that is, like, and you can kind of make a build, with the loot combined with the skills you're getting. But yes,
you can definitely make builds in Heroes of Hammerwatch as well. And you even get attribute points that you get to choose how to assign.
Right.
So you can. I started playing a warlock, dumped a whole bunch of points into strength. So that I could wear the heavy armor, because I started playing with Stacy. She was playing like a witch or a sorceress.
Okay, so it's multiplayer?
Yep.
That's nice.
And I was tanking at the front because the warlock has lifesteal on melee hit. I was just running around with a dagger shanking things.
Wow.
Wearing heavy armor.
How much was it?
It's about $20.
That's not
20
bad.
to 30.
Okay.
But I think closer to 20.
Did you get on sale or?
No, I got it the day it came out.
What made you get it the day it came out?
It got advertised to me on Steam. It was like more of what
it's
you
that
like.
easy, folks.
Wow.
If you're listening and you've got a game, Paul's email.
I was looking for something to play.
Was it on?
It popped up, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like me."
It was
And
not
got it.
on sale or anything. Just
I don't think so.
I don't think I've ever bought. I very rarely have bought something on Steam that's not on sale, even when it's advertised to me.
I just buy stuff that interests me because
Yeah.
I won't play that many games in a year, really, anyway. And most of the games I play are roguelike
Yeah.
or weird old games that are not old, but that sort of style.
Yeah.
I recently bought a full price game on Steam.
Yeah.
Yes, Heroes of Quad.
Caves of Cud.
Caves. That's one. That's one. Caves of Quad.
I think it's Cud.
It's
but
QUD.
yeah.
Caves of QUD. Whatever that.
Cued.
Quad. Whatever it is. That game is absolute madness. It is a roguelike as opposed to a roguelite. It is predominantly randomly generated, but not entirely. It has permanent death by default. Nothing carries across.
Oh.
So if you die,
Proper
you
roguelike.
start again.
Yep.
Is that something you would want, Paul?
Oh, I've played games. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Permadeath.
Yeah,
Nothing carries over.
those can be fun too.
Cost me $40
Oh yeah.
on which is full price.
Yep.
There's like a little pet expansion or something. I think.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll get it. It's like $7, but we'll see.
Yep.
I probably put in, I would guess, about 10-ish hours,
Mm.
and I had finally beaten the first quest on one of the characters. That's how long it is. Brutally hard.
Yeah.
And it does not tell you a whole lot.
Yep.
And it's one of those roguelikes where knowledge is the path forward.
Yep. Yep.
And you get better
Interesting.
at knowing what things are and how things work.
Yeah.
And that's primarily how you progress. That's the thing that carries across is
you know
learning.
you know things. Yeah.
It has there are so much. It is so dense, that game.
Mm.
It has a whole history system which is randomized.
Oh.
So you can start off in a town. Now some elements are not randomized.
Mm.
For example, town layouts are not randomized.
Okay.
And there are certain locations in the world map
Mm.
which are not randomized. So like I know if I start in the town of Joppa and I go down like 5 squares or something like that, five screens, I can find what looks like an old nuclear reactor. That
Oh.
by the way, the setting is awesome.
Yeah.
It is post-apocalyptic in a world, sort of a fantasy sci-fi world where there's like humans and mutants,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then also a bunch of weird animals, and
Okay.
and everything is salty.
Ah.
Everything
And
is salty.
Everything is salty.
Okay.
People refer to the salt sun, which I assume is just the sun.
Yep.
And fresh water is your currency,
Huh.
and you also need fresh water to survive.
Oh wow.
So
Oh, I like that.
So you
like it.
you are carrying around
Yep.
drams of fresh water, and
Yep.
you pay for things with drams of fresh water.
Yep.
And sometimes you find fresh water just on the ground, and it's a big deal because it's
Wow.
like, yes, it's money and also survival.
Yep.
Um,
That's interesting.
it is a brilliant game.
Yeah.
The writing is dense and kind of pastoral, so it's like
Mm.
thick, sort of not quite Shakespearean language, but somewhere between like sort of the 1800s. If you've ever read like that sort of Jane Austen era,
Not read Jane Austen.
sort of formal language, but
Yeah.
mixed in with some sort of sci-fi
Okay.
terminology, and
Mm.
it's great. It's really wonderful setting, wonderful writing, and the dynamic history thing is really interesting.
Mhm.
And it's so dense with just weird, random, secret stuff.
Mm.
I know I downloaded the wiki because I was like, I want to
Yep.
read
Yep.
about just some of the stuff, because I was, to be honest, quite lost for a while. There's just so much
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
There, for example, I know that there's like a secret area because I read the wiki,
Mhm.
and the way you get to this super secret area is if you happen to be carrying a specific kind of liquid in in your inventory.
Yep.
And then you walk inside a clam.
Why
But-
is
sorry,
here's
let
a
me
question.
wait. You have to walk inside a clam when you are lost.
When you are lost,
Yes.
is
So,
lost a
lost is a
status?
thing. If you're trying to travel across so there's like an overworld,
Yeah.
and you can travel through the overworld, or you can travel like screen by screen.
Oh, right.
Right.
Oh,
So like
wow.
the overworld really encompasses a grid of each square in the overworld is a grid of 3x3 screens.
I see.
And if you're traveling to a location on the overworld, there's a chance you can get lost.
Mm.
And if you get lost, you are pushed into a screen,
Mm.
and you have to find an NPC to talk to, or you have to wander around until you're not lost anymore.
Oh, wow.
Like you have to find a location you recognize,
Yep.
or there's just a small chance that you're like, actually, I know where I am.
Ah.
And if you are, and you can't go back up to the overworld until you have achieved that. So you have to be carrying a special liquid. You have to have gotten lost specifically into an area where there's a clam, and then you have to walk inside the clam, and then you go to an interdimensional place where there's a special magic clam.
Why is this okay? Why do you find this fun and interesting? But becoming an egg in Dark Souls, crouching down in Dark Souls to access another.
I knew exactly this. I knew you were going to ask this, and I can tell you exactly why.
That sounds because that
Dark
sounds
Souls
just as convoluted to me.
Dark Souls does not have permanent death or randomization.
Yeah.
So the odds of that happening by, like, a player is not going to just crouch down and try to become an egg. Look, put it this way: the thing that I'm describing is a thing that is not meant to be found by most players.
I see.
Is by design a secret area.
Yeah.
With like kind of a funny, weird thing.
Yeah.
It's not like a whole ass zone.
Right.
On top of that, you can just stumble into it by accident because it's like I was carrying the liquid and I wanted to get something out of the clam or something. So it's like there are ways that it could just happen.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it is a weird, funny game.
Yeah.
Like it is full of weird things. For example, I was 4 strata deep below ground, and I saw a glowing puddle on the ground, and it said, "Oh, this is cloning fluid."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, sweet! I'll put it in my water skin." But my water skin was full.
Yeah.
And so instead, I drank my cloning liquid off the ground, and it's like, you feel uneasily ambiguous or something like that.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, that's weird. And so I was like, nothing happened. I went on my way, and then like as I was walking through the dungeon, a clone of me popped out. Which of course you kind of expect that.
Yeah.
But then like now I have a clone of me and I can do stuff.
Yeah.
But I have a skill called temporal fugue, and temporal fugue makes a version of me from the future appear.
Oh.
Or maybe from like the past. Some like it's a 10 time travel thing where like a version of me time travels to help me out. But my clone also has that skill, so now I can get 4 of me.
Holy.
And so it starts getting weird, right?
Yep.
But here's the thing: I didn't have to just drink that. I could have picked it up. I could have sold it,
Mm-hmm.
or I could have poured it on an NPC and made
Yeah.
2 of that NPC.
Yeah.
Or I could have poured that on a monster and made 2 of that monster.
I get it. It's got that sort of dynamic. Like
It is
all these systems can interact with each other.
It is hyper open ended.
Yep.
It is very much like trying to be Dungeons and Dragons with that open ended.
That's cool. Yeah.
What is the like moment to moment gameplay actually like? Like how are you actually interacting with this?
So that's the worst part of the game, I would say. It is aggressively old school in that sense. So like,
well, actually, speaking of that, before you get onto that, aggressively old school. I don't think you've described the actual like art of the game.
Yeah, it is. It looks like it came out in 1989.
It looks a little bit better than. It's like imagine ASCII art. It's like a step above ASCII art.
It's like, do you remember when screens went from monochrome to like 16 colors?
Yeah.
And then they're like, look at all the things we can do with. It's like Commodore 64.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think it is like late 80s looking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's by design.
Yeah.
And a lot of the interactions feel like that. So like you can use a mouse and keyboard and whatever. Like you can move around by clicking on locations. Or you can use your arrow keys. But if you want to interact with something, you have to like right click on it, or you have to like press spacebar when you're up against it, and it will present a menu, and the menu will be like, look, attack, examine, whatever else. Like there's a bunch of different things, and you can interact with things specifically that way.
Yep.
And sometimes they get weird. It'll be like, oh, this person's covered in blood, and you can clean them off.
As you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there might be reasons you want to clean them off. It
Mm.
might be, for example, I might have been walking through the slime bogs and fighting lots of slimes, and I'm covered in so much slime that like I can barely move, and I need to wash the slime off. And so there's a reason I can wash the slime off of myself, and maybe I have a companion who's covered in slime, and I want to wash the slime off of them. So there's reasons for these. Oh, there's also a really in-depth liquid system in this game.
Oh.
So like if I'm walking through a puddle,
Yeah.
I will leave a trail of water in my wake.
Funny.
And if that trail of water leads to another body of water, then those liquids will mix a little bit.
Oh.
So like if I'm walking through salt water, it just says like brine.
Yeah.
This is or it might just say salt water, but I might kill a plant,
Yeah.
and the plant might drop sap, and it'll be like sweet salty water because the sap is a little sweet. And then a Snapjaw might walk into that same grid, and I might kill it, and it'll drop a bunch of blood, and it'll be like bloody sweet salty water.
Wow.
And it'll tell you exactly
That's
how
deep.
much. It'll be like 500 grams of bloody sweet salty water, and there are different proportions. So
Yeah.
it might be like dilute salt because it's actually mostly salt,
Right.
and there's a little bit of water in there.
Oh my God.
And the liquids,
This is nuts.
the liquids have vaporization temperatures. So if I use like a fire spell, I can vaporize that water, and it'll just leave behind salt.
Wow.
Or if it's like, it might be like some sort of gel, and it has like a really high vaporization temperature, so I can't necessarily vaporize it. Or it might just evaporate ambiently, or it might freeze. So there's like quite complex liquid things. Some of those liquids are flammable. For example, oil.
Yeah.
And some of these, there's lots of different cultures. So most living creatures, because water is the currency, you can go up to them and you can perform a water ritual, which is like, here, I'm giving you some water. Cheers. Now we're friends. Kind of thing. But not everybody cares about water. So you might want to carry around some oil in case you meet a robot guy. And he's like, you perform the water ritual with oil with him, and he gets some reputation.
Wow.
And then there's like maybe a slime culture who only uses slime that you only get from the slime bogs or from killing slimes.
Wow.
But if you're killing slimes, you're probably not that friendly with the slime culture.
Yeah.
It's a really weird, amazing game.
It sounds like it's just a web of interconnected systems.
It's so dense, and I've so barely scratched the surface.
That's incredible.
There are books that are randomly generated.
What?
In there.
What?
And you can't read the full book, but you can read snippets of the book.
Yeah. Well, didn't you say you said the history? Is that randomly generated?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So like, and the way that plays out is like there will be statues of sultans.
Yeah.
From throughout the history of the world.
Yeah.
And it'll be like Sultan Mehmet II. The people looked to the horizon and they saw what seemed to be living coral, and it turned out to be Sultan Mehmet II, wreathed in a coral armor. And he came and he slew the people, and so he became known as the bloody coral wreathed.
Yeah.
And then it'll be like, you noted this down in your journal, and then it'll be like, you now know the location of this place, and you know that there might be some coral armor there.
Whoa.
And
that's all random.
He lost that coral armor at a gambling den in this town, and he cursed the town on his way out. And it'd be like, okay, this is the location you can go and get.
And that's just randomly
generated.
That's incredible.
But it's all also consistent.
Yeah.
So like they from as far as I can tell, they build like kind of a family tree, and they give each member of the family some important events and a chronology and some potentially some items and locations that they visited.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten to any of this stuff, but I know that there are people who care about that information. So like I can trade that information for experience or like reputation. Yeah. There are people who will give experience for books. So I've been I went like 4 strata deep and found like a house full of unicorns. Full of unicorns and books.
Wow.
And turrets.
Oh my God! What?
And so I stole all the books and said hi to the unicorns and disabled the turrets.
What?
And the game is so full of interesting things. It's really, really cool. I really, really like it. It's so hard.
What is something that has that surprised you that you were able to do? that you did not expect at all that you could do, and then you're like,
That's
oh
a
my god, I cannot
that's a
believe
good question. I think I'm not at that stage yet. 'Cause
Mm.
I'm playing pretty like traditionally.
Yep.
Um, but like I think when I first discovered that I was 4 strata deep, and like at that point the cave had been like each cave level was one screen. And
Oh,
you'd
yeah.
go down, you'd explore it. There'd be like
Yeah.
little cave like snapjaw camps, and you could loot them and blah blah blah. And then when I hit that 4th level, it's like, okay, I'm exploring. Oh, actually, I can go off the screen here. Oh, actually, I can go way off. This is huge. This
Oh,
is a
wow.
huge area.
Yeah.
And I read, I didn't know this, but there's like a secret entrance in the starting village to go to that level of depth.
Whoa.
So there's a surprise I hadn't even
Yeah.
encountered yet. Let's see what else. I don't know. I made friends with a gorilla.
Mhm.
I could.
You were surprised?
I mean, a little bit.
Did you do a water ritual with a banana?
No. Actually, the first time I got killed by baboons throwing rocks, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I think my shortest run was I like did all the things that I usually do at the starting village, where I like do my water ritual and
Yep.
get my quests, and I went like 2 screens or 3 screens up and got immediately killed by chitin pumas.
Oh.
So like I guess they've got shells.
Yep.
Mhm.
And they just immediately leapt on
Oh,
me and I
wow.
died. And I went,
How-
okay, well,
How do
balance."
you know? How do you know if an enemy is gonna just wreck you from a distance? You don't. You don't.
You don't. I accidentally found a legendary crocodile's lair, and he lasered me to death.
Okay, that's unexpected. But this is, oh my god, this is so much like the thing you hate in Dark
No, it's
Souls,
not,
though.
because Dark Souls is not random. Okay, Dark Souls is by design mean to the player, and that is different. This is by design random.
Right.
And sometimes
I
you
see.
have,
and
sometimes
it's
you have
mean.
an unfair run, and you laugh it off. It's
Yeah.
like, well, you know what? Nothing. I
Have
could
you
do there.
encountered?
But here's the other thing. I say nothing I could do there, but there's almost all the deaths. I
Yeah.
felt like I could do something.
Yep.
Okay.
The Puma one was one where it was like that was a bit crap.
Yeah.
I died immediately. That one I felt was a bit unfair.
Yeah.
But usually it's like I could have trained my character up on some weak enemies right outside of town. Like there are these neutral glowfish that are pretty
Mm.
squishy, and you can just sort of smack them around and get some experience. I could have eaten there's like a healing bark,
Mm.
and you can harvest it from some trees.
Mm.
And there's a chance when you eat it that you get confused and the screen becomes completely jumbled and you
Oh,
don't know
wow.
where anything is.
Whoa.
But I could have, when I'm low on health, that's an option.
Yep.
And often I would be like, yeah, I'll risk it, and I die. But that's usually my fault.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't use the healing item,
Yeah.
or I didn't use I've got all these grenades on my inventory that I've
Yeah.
just never used, and I could use one.
Yep.
So there's usually like a bunch of options available to me, and I'm stubbornly ignoring them.
Yep.
That's different to just like I walked around a corner and got hit by a boulder. Right?
Is it?
Yes.
There was something you could have done. Maybe peeked around the corner. Maybe
But,
use an
okay,
item
you know
that
what?
you've not
That's
always
true.
used.
That's true. I could play the entirety of all of those Souls games by peeking around every single.
That's what I had to
corner.
do in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah,
was
that
peek
sounds
around every
that
corner.
sounds horrible. That sounds so boring. That sounds like a really bad time.
But if it was random, you'd be like, "This is fine. This is great fun."
Yeah, because if there's suddenly a boulder,
Yeah.
it's because it's random. It's not every corner.
Yeah.
It's like this one corner happened to have a boulder that fell on me,
Yeah.
and you know
I
what?
think, I
Bummer.
get it. I get what you're saying, but what you described sounds so much like what happens in Dark Souls as well.
But it's
But you're-
the difference is intent.
Yeah.
And player autonomy.
Yeah.
I guess those are the two
Mm.
differences there. Like it's not the designer's intent to just like screw over the
Just
player.
have a slime land on
And-
your head.
And
Yep.
the player usually has some capacity to get out of that situation.
Mm.
Like with every character has the ability to sprint,
Yeah.
and sprint is generally faster than anything. Like you can
Mhm.
you might only be able to sprint for like
Mm.
10 turns or whatever, but it gets you out of range of most
Yeah.
attacks.
So how cautious should you really be playing this game then? This is the thing.
That's a good question. I think it depends on the type of character you're playing as.
Yeah.
Like there's lots and lots of different character builds.
Yep.
There's like 5 preset ones that range from like really tanky to squishy and weird.
Yeah.
But if you want to build a character, there's like, I want to say like 10 different, and just in the mutant category, there's like 10 different classes.
Wow.
And then when you go through that, there's like 70 different perks that you can choose to spend points on. And then you have your attributes that you have to spend.
Yeah.
So it's like, it really depends on how you build your character. You can build quite a tanky character, and most of what you're going to be doing is kind of slogging your way through combat, and like you'll recover after every fight.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got a build that is like you recover faster when you're in dark. So you're like especially good at going through these hazardous caves, or you might be like a really squishy character who flies around guns akimbo.
Yep.
And like you're not actually all that good in caves, but in the overworld, you're never going to get lost.
Right.
And
You
you can fly around.
Yeah.
Shooting guys out of the sky.
Yeah. It sounds like a game where it's like you got to pick your battles.
Absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you see a giant like, what was it, crocodile with laser eyes?
A legendary crocodile.
Maybe back out of there.
Yeah, that one. I didn't even die to the crocodile. I got cornered by turtles. I did get lasered, but then I got cornered by snapping turtles, and
That's funny. That's even more funny.
Their shells were too thick, and it was like I would say 200, 300 different turns had passed before like I was cornered, and I was just hitting those things, and my health was just slowly getting chipped down, just a little bit faster than the cube of crocodile, the cube of turtles that had formed to bite me.
You said turns. Is it just turn-based combat?
It is turn-based, yes. So like you move, and that's a turn. You attack, and that's a turn.
Yep.
And some of the mechanics are very obtuse. Like attacking, there's this whole armor system. There's armor and dodge are your kind of main mitigating tools. And you have health, but then also weapons have a thing called penetration, and your penetration is tested against armor. And what you think is the straightforward understanding of something like that would be like, oh, if my penetration is greater than their armor, I do damage, right?
Yep.
No, come on, guys. That's not that kind of game. If your penetration is greater than their armor, they roll it 3 times, and if each time your penetration beats their armor, you get bonus attacks, and that can happen indefinitely.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my face. I went, oh, okay. So armor's really important then. Yeah. Armor and penetration are really important because the difference between armor and penetration is exponential damage. And there's lots of D20.
Oh yeah.
On. So and weapons are all like 2D4 or 1D3.
Also, it really is like a D&D.
It is.
Wow.
It is a CRPG.
Yeah.
Right. It is the table. Yeah. They are trying to emulate a tabletop experience, but also an old school computer game experience.
Because it has that from the screenshots I've seen, it's got that side scroller, like sidebar that is scrolling stuff that's happening.
Yes.
So that would be where the combat is. It's like this.
Not just your combat.
Yeah.
It also tells.
No, everything though. It's like you've seen this, you've done this.
Yes.
Like,
yes. When you kill something, and you walk on their corpse, that sidebar will say you've passed the body of the corpse of a snapjaw and a copper blade and a wooden arrow.
That's your DM telling you
exactly
what you're doing. Yep.
And there are ways you can like look at things from a distance and all sorts of stuff, but for the most part, it feels very descriptive. And most of what you do when you're entering a new area is look at things.
Yeah.
You press L and you highlight things and and say, oh, this guy's really tough. Oh, this guy's carrying some cool items. Oh, this is some new history.
Yeah. If you look at someone and it says, does it give you a description based on like your strength against theirs? Like, would it be like they look really strong?
It'll be easy or average or tough or very tough or impossible.
I like that. That's a good way to then gauge. Because I used to play, Neverwinter Nights used to do that, where you would inspect an enemy and it would just basically give you a rating of like how likely you are to beat them rather than a level. And I really liked that because it was like enough vagueness to be like, oh yeah, that person looks weak. Or that person looks, strong, but like there's still, it's not a hard, like I'm level 10, they're level 20, it's not a hard thing like that.
You know what? I just thought of the thing that surprised me was when I got a fungal infection and that my mouth turned into a bunch of arms. No, it's not my arm turned into a bunch of mouths. Sorry, and then it would whisper secrets to me.
Whoa. What
That's
secrets?
amazing.
What were the secrets?
Like locations of things in the world.
Oh my god! But did that impact
It was a fungal infection called mumble mouth. And
did you go to the locations? Were there actually things there?
No,
because
I died on that character shortly afterwards. But it had given me a bunch of extra armor as well. Like
okay.
The mouths, I guess, were like
seems like that's a good find some fungus and roll around in it.
Well, it meant I couldn't equip anything on that slot.
Oh, did you lose an arm?
No, the arm was still there. It was the arm, not the hand. I could wield a weapon.
Oh yeah.
But the arm, I wouldn't be able to put like something on my wrist.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
Like I couldn't wear a shield.
Yeah.
But the reason I thought of that is because you're talking about the sort of enemy rating thing. It's not always as clear. Like usually, if something is average, it'll be a challenging fight.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's a 50-50 chance that you'll die against one enemy.
Yeah.
Against an average enemy.
Yeah.
And there are these mushrooms that might say impossible. But it's not impossible because they don't attack. So you can just go and wail on them. But they do produce spores.
Oh.
And if you breathe in spores, you might get a fungal infection.
Oh,
it turns out. And that's how I got mumble mouth.
Wow.
On my arm.
Oh my god.
That
sounds cool, man.
It's a really good game.
This game. That
sounds pretty good.
I honestly think it is exactly Blake's kind of game.
Yeah.
But it is also, you're gonna spend about 10 hours going.
Yeah. What is it?
Like, I've probably made about 30 or 40 or 50 new characters, and have only beaten the first sort of quest once.
Have you sort of settled on a class that you're like, okay, this is my style?
Not exactly, because I quite like experimenting.
Yeah,
but the one that was most
so you're still kind of in the experimental
phase,
basically.
The one I was most successful with was a gunslinger kind of guy. He was specialized. He had 2 pistols.
Yep.
He could shoot them both at once. And I think he ended up getting like a freezing. There's one of the perks you can choose is like essentially unstable mutations. So instead of choosing perks at the start, you can just spend a bunch of points and you'll randomly get perks. You have a 33% chance of randomly getting a perk when you level up for each time you've chosen that.
Yeah.
And so that means you could potentially get more expensive perks.
Yeah. But you don't know what they are.
You don't necessarily. It'll be a choice of 3.
Oh.
And so some of them might be cheaper, some of them might be more expensive, some might not be suitable, some of them might make your character worse.
Can you not choose?
No.
Oh.
But that was a character where I did a bunch of unstable mutations.
Yep.
And I got like a freezing ray that I could blast out of my hand, or I could have chosen to blast that out of my face. I don't really know. I think it's if I lose my hand, then I wouldn't necessarily lose the ability to shoot freezing rays.
Yeah. You lose your face.
But maybe if I'm wearing a mask, I can't shoot it on my face.
Yeah.
And I also got like a scorpion tail. I grew a scorpion tail and could sting and paralyze enemies.
Wow. Cool.
And a bunch of stuff. There's so much weird stuff. And I haven't even touched on the fact that like there's a thing you can have it so that when you mutate, you might grow an extra limb.
Oh.
And the limbs can be kind of random. Like I grew a nuclear protrusion. I don't know what that is.
What the heck?
I haven't even touched on the fact that there are. I've been vaguely reading the wiki. You can get like basically brain liquid.
Oh.
And you can drink the brain liquid, and it will be like two brains inhabiting your brain for a while.
What?
And then you might get a perk, or you might get a mental issue.
Wow.
Or you can turn that brain into an aerosol spray and spray it on an item and make it sentient, and then you can take over that sentient item and become it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was reading through the wiki, and they have like a list of limbs you can have, right? And like here's your head, but you could also it could be a skull because you become a skeleton.
Yep.
Or it could become a pillow because you've become a bed. Like this game is this is what I'm saying. It's really, really, really open ended.
Yep.
To the point of it being like they've thought of everything.
That's incredible. How long did you say it was in development?
It was in development for 17 years.
Yeah.
So, and it shows. Like, as bad as it
Yeah.
looks and as unwieldy as it is to use, it is extremely thorough.
You know what it actually reminds me of? Do you remember so Baldur's Gate,
Yeah.
right? That was in early access for quite a while,
Yeah.
and the it was just the first act, and throughout that they were getting feedback from people who were
Yeah.
playing, and they're like, "Oh,
I wish I could do
I wish I
this.
could do
And they
this. I
would
wish I
bat
could
it.
do that. I wish I could
Yes.
do that."
Yes.
I think it's that for
Yes.
17 years.
Yes. But here's the thing: it is also not without bugs.
Oh yeah.
I found.
How do you know if it's a bug or just a weird
Well,
thing?
that's a really good question, and I took screenshots because I was genuinely not sure, and I need to look into it. But I was looking at a statue of a sultan,
Yeah.
and it was like Sultan Hepshepet,
Mm.
from the year Hex not found. It's like, oh, that's probably not right.
Or is it?
Hexadecimal not found. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I found a different statue of the same person as like Hepshepet from Hexadecimal not found. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
I think I did find a bug.
Yeah.
Um,
That seems like something that you can at least identify because it's like randomly generated,
Yes.
like history.
it was some
text.
random cell in some random
Yeah.
database
Yeah.
spreadsheet somewhere that was just
Yeah.
corrupted. or
Unless you find a calendar and then
something.
one of the dates is
then the
just-
year of hexadecimal not found.
Yeah.
But man, what a really I think I'm a little bit addicted to this game. I haven't played it in a couple days, but I can't stop thinking
That's
about it
cool, man. That's really
because
cool.
it's just there's so much. The possibilities are
Yeah.
so seemingly endless.
I know you like that with games. Like I remember in Zelda, you were always talking about all the elements, how they worked together in interesting ways, and all the different ways
Oh,
of
yeah,
solving puzzles and that sort of
This
thing.
has a lot of that. It's mostly that. in
Yeah,
fact.
it's basically that the game.
Yeah. So I really
That
like
sounds cool. Can you can you use a controller? Or would it be too difficult with a controller?
I think it would be a pain in the butt.
Okay.
What I found myself doing is using a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
Like I will kind of mostly move with the keyboard unless I need to move diagonally, in which case I have to move the mouse. There is a way to move diagonally with the keyboard, but it's annoying.
Yeah.
And
So it's more like just use a mouse, right?
yeah, but keyboard allows for more fine
Fine.
movement,
Okay.
which you may want at times.
Yeah.
Because you'll be in a cave and there will be a pit,
Yeah.
and you can fall down the pit.
Yep.
And you might die. You might go to another level. Who knows? And if you die, start again.
Sounds
here's-
cool.
There are ways to there's other modes where you don't have to start again
Mm.
and all that stuff. I haven't touched any of that yet.
Oh yeah.
There's a mode where it's like basically no combat,
Oh.
where like most things are neutral, and the whole point is you explore and you talk to people.
That
and you read
would be
books.
interesting on its own because that world, like you say, is so dense.
Yes.
That would keep you playing for a long time, even with no combat.
Yeah. So I might start tinkering around with those
Yeah.
at some point.
So there is a mode then that is not permadeath.
Yeah, there's a mode. I mean the sort of story driven one. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can die because I think it's mostly just
Oh,
walking
yeah.
around.
Because what you say is like it does sound super interesting. But if you get, I feel like if I were to get hours into it and on a character that
Yeah.
hasn't died, I would not want to be experimenting
Yeah.
with things, right? If I
Yeah.
see a liquid on the ground,
Yeah.
I don't even think I want to touch it. You
I open
know?
up the wiki.
Yeah.
Um,
So if you like at a certain point, that permadeath thing feels like a hindrance to actually like gameplay
yes,
for me.
I understand that.
It's the same thing in like PoE whenever I used to play hardcore.
Yeah.
I ended up not wanting to play because I was like, well, I've got my character
I don't
this
wanna
far.
lose it,
I don't
yeah.
want to lose it.
The sort of most non-permadeath but still challenging mode, when you go to a settlement, which is like a town, I think.
Yeah.
It checkpoints your character.
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
you can like do a bunch of stuff and then come back to town and you
Yeah.
basically save.
Oh, that's cool. There was a game I was playing. I mentioned it ages ago. It was a PC adaptation of a text a game book.
Yes.
It was called Fabled Lands.
Yeah.
So that also has a permadeath thing, and in the game book it had permadeath. But you could go to temples and pay money for resurrection.
Okay.
For a resurrection blessing.
Right.
So when you die, you would resurrect there.
Yeah.
But then also throughout the game, you can encounter things that will take away random blessings. So
Okay.
you can think you're safe and then be out in the wild
Right.
and then
Yeah,
oh
that's
no, I've gotten
suddenly-
into a situation and I've lost my
That's quite
blessing.
cool.
So
Yeah.
now
I
you're
actually really
Now
like
you're
that.
vulnerable.
now you're
again.
vulnerable and you're kind of like I should probably go back to the nearest town and try
Yeah.
to find a new blessing.
I think there might be. I need to look into it because now I'm just guessing at things.
Yeah.
But I think there might be sort of equivalent things where you can get like revivals or that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Like I know that at some point there's a place called like well there's a place where there's a thing called a mark of death.
Oh
and
yeah.
I think you can. I read if you find a tattoo gun, you can give yourself a mark of death, and I don't know what that does.
See,
But you're gonna have to find some
"Oh,
grams of ink first, by the way,
Oh,
because ink is
wow.
another liquid.
Oh god.
But you could also, if you find a box of crayons, there's a 1 in 500 chance if you try to use this box of crayons to draw something,
Mm.
you can. It might be a quantum box of crayons, and the thing you draw becomes real.
Oh wow.
So,
Neat.
so you can maybe draw a tattoo gun full of ink, and
Yeah.
then use the tattoo gun
Oh my.
to give yourself a mark of death or whatever it is that lets you revive.
Yeah. Oh my god.
The game is so dense, man.
But I like if there is like a resurrection thing. I like that it's part of the world, not just like, oh, you lose a life and you
Yeah.
respawn.
Yeah.
You know, it should be part of the world where you start off, you don't have it, and then maybe at some point you find, oh,
You
I
earn
can
it.
actually get this here if
Yeah.
I maintain something, you know, and
yeah, I
it's
suspect
just worked into the
It's
world.
probably very difficult and expensive to get,
Mm.
and not.
But
not
that would make
frequent.
sense.
Yeah.
Because if you were an adventurer in this world, a resurrection thing would be very difficult.
Yes, and valuable.
And, yeah.
Anyway, that's Caves of Qud.
I'm sure it's Caves of
Caves
Qud.
of Qud. QUD. I don't know.
I've seen one video of someone talking about it, and they said Qud.
I've heard Quood.
Cood.
I've heard lots of things.
Carvies of Cute.
Yeah, that's one. Caves of Qud.
I think that's it.
Caves of Qud.
Yeah.
I want to play some more. Really
Cool.
bad,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna.
I think I might get it.
I really hope you do because
Yeah.
I'm dying to talk to someone
I'm-
about how weird it is.
I'm neck deep. I'm neck deep in Satisfactory at the moment, though. So I'm gonna wait for that to.
Yeah, you showed
burn
us.
out on that.
We're almost at. I mean, probably are out of time at this point. But you showed us.
Not a spreadsheet.
Yeah, you were like we were talking about spreadsheets, and you said, "Well, talking about spreadsheets," and then you pulled up an image.
An image board.
Lake.
Not a spreadsheet. But it had numbers on it.
Yeah, you were making your build chain for
Yeah.
Satisfactory in an
Yep.
image.
Yep.
With all of the numbers of the things you need to get to
Yes,
manufacture
yes.
the thing you want to build in
Yeah.
Satisfactory.
And it's on a program called PureRef. And what's cool with that is that the images are all scalable and the notes are all scalable. So as I realized as I was like going down the chain, the writing and images got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But you just zoom into it and it's fine. But then when you look from a distance, you're like, oh my god, what?
And is Satisfactory still fun?
It is. I'm having a great time.
That's good
Yeah.
because I dropped off.
I'm having such a good time. I'm like, I have expanded out so much. I've got like 20 trucks rolling around, dropping resources off and picking them up. I'm at a point now where I've expanded out into a desert area.
Ooh.
And I am thinking now of building a train system that is going to ship some resources into the sort of main hub area
Yeah.
from the desert.
That sounds cool.
It's great.
It does.
I think that's a game I would have a lot more fun in multiplayer, where someone else can do all of the stuff I don't want to do.
But that is everything. That's everything.
No, I really like walking around. I like jumping on the treadmills and being carried to places. That's
I
my
thought-
kind of game.
I thought of like what this would be like multiplayer, and I just think because there's that like that people would get really into the efficiency of it, I think it would end up being like one person dictates everything, you know,
Yeah,
and it would just get annoying, I think.
but that might also be what I need for that kind of game. Where it's
Maybe?
like I know I don't. I hit a point where it's like I know what I have to do.
Yeah.
and I don't. But I also don't know how to go
Yeah.
about doing it the best way, and I don't want to deal with. thinking
It would
about
be it actually would be in multiplayer. It could be interesting to have someone.
before.
Okay, I need you to go out and scout
Yeah.
for resources and mark them on the map.
Mm.
You know where they are and stuff like that, because that would be helpful. Because there's times where I'm like, okay, I need more oil. and I've used up the oil that I've got.
Yeah.
I need to just go out and scan a bunch and hopefully I run into oil.
Yeah. Well,
It's good. And I do.
I'm glad.
And then I build a road.
You should play Caves of Good instead.
And Heroes of Hammerwatch 2.
And Heroes of
They
Hammerwatch
both
II.
sound really
that,
good.
That does sound fun.
They both sound really good.
Yeah.
It's
All
funny
right.
they both have an old school vibe too.
And both random.
Yeah.
Both heavily reliant on randomness.
Yep.
Randomness is such a great way to keep things fresh.
It is.
All right. We are well out of time. If you've got comments or questions, you can email frenzyquestions@gmail.com. We have so many. We've got a big backlog to read out, but we do read them, even if we don't read them out. And
Yeah, I try to reply to a bunch.
Blake's amazing. Round of applause for Blake.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be back in a couple weeks, probably.
2 weeks exactly.
2 weeks exactly.
Yep.
As always.
No matter what.
Never what.
No matter what.
Never missed it yet.
Yeah.
190 episodes. Haven't missed it once. Don't do the math, guys.
That divides exactly equally.
So yeah, if you
in however many years we've
yes,
been
if
doing
you
it.
look back at the date of our first episode and you did a number of weeks till today, you'll see that's
we
perfect.
did. Do you remember on our 100th episode we released that episode 0, that one we did
Yeah.
that we didn't release
yes,
to anyone?
Yes.
What are we going to do on 200? We're almost
We'll
there.
just end it.
We'll just end it.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right. Bye. But I do want to talk about Caves of Cud.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yep,
Cud. Yeah.
Cud? Caves of Cud. I think it's called Caves of Cud. That's what I've heard it as.
Okay.
But I might be wrong. I don't know.
That game is insane.
Yeah.
It's so dense and so interesting and fun and brutal.
Wow.
I think you would enjoy it, Paul. I don't know if you'd enjoy it. I'm not sure if it's like your kind of game.
It has such a unique art style. I'll show you that.
It's so old school. Caves of Cud is like legit a roguelike. Roguelike.
Yeah.
So that's, in fact, if anything,
It looks like it.
it's the original.
Looks
It's
like
called,
the
things are
Rogue.
called, they're called roguelikes
Yeah,
because there was a game called Rogue.
Yeah, that was
And-
an ASCII.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's like, what if Rogue was way, way, way bigger and harder?
Yeah. It's like, what if they just kept making Rogue?
What if, yes.
And
yes. I mean, they worked on this game for like 17 years.
really?
Yeah.
Holy hell.
17 years. It went into early access
Wow.
in 2015.
Whoa.
And it came
Oh
out,
my god.
Came out end of last year.
Whoa.
Jesus.